Billionaire's deaf son cried nonstop on the plane, until a little girl used sign language. At 30,000 feet, a billionaire learned that all her money couldn't buy the one thing her son needed most, until a little girl's hands spoke the words that changed everything. Welcome back, my wonderful family and friends. If you're tuned in and ready to dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Tomorrow, I'll be bringing you another exciting story you definitely don't want to miss. So, let's get started. Victoria Chen's heels clicked against the airport terminal's marble floor with the sharp precision of a woman who commanded rooms with her presence alone. At 38, she'd built Chen Technologies from a garage startup into a billion-dollar empire, her face gracing the covers of Forbes and Fortune. Behind her, 7-year-old Ethan walked 3 steps back, his small hand clutching an iPad that displayed dancing cartoon characters in brilliant blues and reds. "Ethan, keep up," Victoria said without turning, her phone pressed to her ear. "Yes, Richard. I need those merger documents ready when we land in Singapore. I don't care if it's—" She glanced back. Ethan had stopped, his eyes fixed on a departing plane through the massive windows. His free hand lifted, fingers moving in shapes Victoria had seen countless times but never learned to read. She didn't know he was signing. The plane looked scared to leave the ground. "Ethan." Her voice sharpened. The boy flinched and hurried forward, his hands dropping to his sides. They boarded the private luxury jet. Cream leather seats, mahogany accents, a cabin that smelled of expensive coffee and new money. Victoria guided Ethan to his seat, buckled him in with efficient movements, then returned to her phone and laptop. She had 3 hours to prepare for the Singapore Tech Conference. 3 hours she couldn't afford to waste. Ethan's hands moved again, faster now, more urgent. His face scrunched with the effort of communicating to someone who wasn't watching. The iPad slipped from his lap. Victoria picked it up without looking at him, placing it back in his hands. "Watch your show, baby. Mommy needs to work." The boy's lower lip trembled. 50 feet behind them, in the commercial section of the shared charter flight, Rosa Martinez helped her 9-year-old daughter Lily stow their carry-on in the overhead bin. Rosa's hands moved in fluid sign language, her face animated and expressive. "You packed the snacks?" she signed. "Yes, Mama." Lily signed back, her small hands mimicking her mother's grace. "The cheese crackers you like and the apple slices." Rosa smiled, cupping her daughter's face. "What would I do without you, mi corazón?" Lily beamed. She was used to being her mother's ears in the hearing world, at grocery stores, doctors' offices, parent-teacher conferences. At 9, she'd been interpreting since she was 5, her hands fluent in 2 languages before most kids mastered one. They settled into their seats, 23C and 23D. Lily pressed her face to the window, watching ground crew load luggage. Her worn backpack sat at her feet, covered in patches. A rainbow flag, a hand making the sign for love, a unicorn her abuela had sewn on. Inside were 3 library books, a sketchpad, and the ASL dictionary she'd gotten for her 8th birthday. "I hope there are clouds today," Lily signed to her mother. "The puffy ones that look like animals." Rosa signed back, "You and your imagination." As the plane prepared for takeoff, Lily heard it, a sound that made her stomach clench. Crying. Not the fussy crying of a baby, but the desperate, gasping sobs of a child in real distress. She leaned into the aisle, looking toward first class. 3 rows ahead, in the luxury section separated by a thin curtain, she could see a small boy with dark hair, his body shaking with sobs. A woman in an expensive suit hovered over him, her face a mixture of panic and frustration. The boy's hands were moving frantically, desperately, forming shapes in the air. Lily's eyes widened. She knew those shapes. He was signing, and no one was answering him. What would you do if you saw a child desperately trying to communicate and no one could understand them? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Ethan's crying escalated into a full meltdown. His small body convulsed with sobs, his chest heaving as tears streamed down his flushed cheeks. His hands moved frantically, signing the same phrases over and over. Scared. Don't understand. Why can't you hear me? Mommy, please see me. But Victoria couldn't read the words his hands were screaming. Ethan, baby, please. Victoria's voice cracked, her composure fracturing. She pulled out his iPad, swiping through apps. Look, your favorite game. See? The one with the dolphins. She held it up to him, but Ethan knocked it away. The device clattered to the cabin floor. Other passengers were staring now. A businessman in 2A lowered his newspaper, his expression annoyed. An elderly woman in 3C clucked her tongue sympathetically. The flight attendant approached, her smile professional but useless. Ma'am, is there anything we can? No. Victoria's word was sharp as glass. Just give us a moment. But moments weren't helping. Ethan's face had gone red, his silent screams visible in the way his mouth opened wide, his eyes squeezed shut. He rocked in his seat, his hands still signing, still begging to be understood. Victoria felt something she rarely allowed herself to feel: complete and utter helplessness. She was a woman who'd negotiated billion-dollar deals, who'd faced down boardrooms full of men who'd underestimated her, who'd built an empire through sheer will. But she couldn't comfort her own son. Her hands hovered over him, useless, foreign. I don't know what you need, she whispered, her voice breaking. Baby, I don't know what you're saying. Then, cutting through the chaos, a small voice. Excuse me. Victoria looked up. A little girl stood in the aisle. Maybe 9 years old, with warm brown skin, dark braids pulled back with colorful ties, and eyes that held an impossible gentleness. She wore a faded purple hoodie and carried herself with a quiet confidence that seemed out of place in someone so young. I can help, Lily said simply. Victoria blinked. I don't think. But Lily had already moved past her, sliding into the empty seat beside Ethan with the kind of calm that comes from deep knowing. She didn't touch him, didn't invade his space, just positioned herself where he could see her clearly. Then her hands began to move. They moved with fluid precision, each gesture deliberate and graceful. Her face became part of the language, eyebrows raised in gentle question, head tilted with kindness. Hi, she signed. My name is Lily. Are you scared? Ethan's crying stuttered, stopped. His red-rimmed eyes opened, locking onto Lily's hands. For 3 heartbeats he just stared, his chest still hitching with leftover sobs. Then, slowly, as if he couldn't quite believe what he was seeing, his trembling hands lifted. You can hear me? Lily's face broke into the warmest smile Victoria had ever seen. I can hear you, she signed back. I can hear every word. The question hit like a physical blow. Victoria's fingers tightened around her phone. He has therapists, the best money can buy. Speech therapists, occupational therapists, behavioral specialists. But does he have you? Silence. The kind of silence that roared. Victoria's mouth opened, then closed. Her mind raced through justifications, her schedule, her responsibilities, the company, the investors, the deals that couldn't wait. She'd hired the best professionals, enrolled Ethan in the top programs, bought him every assistive device available. She'd given him everything, except the one thing he was begging for right now. I've been busy, Victoria said, hating how weak the words sounded. Building the company, providing for his future. He doesn't need the future, Lily said, her young voice carrying a wisdom that unsettled Victoria. He needs now. He needs you now. Ethan was watching his mother's face, his hands still clutching Lily's arm. He couldn't hear the words being spoken, but he could read his mother's expression, the tightness around her eyes, the way she looked everywhere except at him. His small shoulders slumped, and something in his face closed off. He'd seen that look before, the look that meant Mommy was going away again, into her phone, into her work, into the place where he couldn't reach her. Victoria saw it happen, saw her son retreat into himself, and for the first time in years, she felt truly afraid. The plane's intercom crackled to life, the pilot's voice cutting through the tension. Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing some unexpected turbulence ahead. We're asking all passengers to return to their seats immediately and keep seatbelts fastened until further notice. Flight attendants, please be seated. A flight attendant appeared at their row, her expression apologetic but firm. I'm sorry, but the young lady needs to buckle in. She can't return to her seat right now. It's not safe to move through the cabin. Victoria opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. The plane had already begun to shudder slightly, a subtle vibration that promised worse to come. She'll have to stay here, the attendant said, already moving toward her own jump seat. Just buckle her into that empty seat beside the boy. And just like that, the decision was made. Lily wasn't going anywhere. Victoria watched as Lily buckled herself in, Ethan's hand still gripping hers like a lifeline. The little girl didn't seem bothered by the forced proximity. If anything, she looked pleased. The plane dipped suddenly, and the seatbelt light dinged urgently. Ethan's face paled, his free hand flying up to sign something sharp and scared. He says the plane is falling, Lily translated, then immediately began signing back to him, her expression calm and reassuring. Victoria leaned forward. What are you telling him? That we're safe, Lily said, still signing. That turbulence is just the plane dancing with the wind. That sometimes dancing looks scary, but it's actually kind of fun. As if to contradict her, the plane lurched hard to the left. Ethan's silent cry was visible in his open mouth, his eyes squeezed shut. But Lily kept signing, her hands moving in front of his face, telling him a story. Victoria caught fragments of it, something about clouds being trampolines, about how the angels were probably playing volleyball right now and occasionally bumping into planes by accident. It was nonsensical, childish, completely illogical. And it was working. Ethan's eyes opened. He watched Lily's hands, his breathing starting to slow. Then, hesitantly, he signed something back. Lily grinned and nodded enthusiastically, signing a response that made Ethan's mouth twitch into an almost smile. The plane dropped again, harder this time. Victoria's stomach lurched. Her knuckles went white, gripping the armrest. She was a woman who prided herself on control, and right now she had absolutely none. A small hand covered hers. Victoria looked down in surprise. Lily had reached across Ethan, her child-sized hand resting on Victoria's white-knuckled grip. The little girl looked up at her with those impossibly gentle eyes. "It's okay," Lily said aloud, while simultaneously signing to Ethan. "We're safe together." And then Lily did something that broke Victoria completely. She took Victoria's hand and Ethan's hand and brought them together, placing them palm to palm. Ethan's small fingers curled around his mother's, and Lily kept her own hands wrapped around both of theirs. The three of them sat like that, connected, as the plane rocked through rough air. Victoria stared at her son's hand in hers. Really looked at it. When had it gotten so big? When had he gone from baby to boy? How many moments had she missed while she was building an empire? Ethan wasn't looking at the turbulence anymore. He was looking at his mother, his eyes searching her face for something. Understanding, maybe. Connection. Love. Victoria felt something crack inside her chest. a fissure in the armor she'd built so carefully around her heart. She squeezed Ethan's hand, not knowing what else to do, not knowing any signs, not knowing anything except that her son was here and she was here, and maybe that was enough to start with. Ethan squeezed back, and for the first time since he was born, Victoria felt like maybe, just maybe, she could reach him after all. The turbulence continued, but in their linked hands, something had shifted. Something had begun. The turbulence eventually subsided, the plane smoothing into steady flight. The seatbelt sign remained on, keeping Lily anchored beside Ethan. Victoria hadn't let go of her son's hand. Ethan signed something to Lily, his expression curious. Lily glanced at Victoria, hesitating. What did he ask? Victoria said quietly. He wants to know why you never learned to talk with your hands, Lily said, her voice careful, diplomatic beyond her years. The question landed like a punch. Victoria's throat tightened. She looked at her son's expectant face, then at Lily's patient one, and realized she couldn't hide anymore. Not here. Not now. Victoria started, then stopped. When was the last time she'd explained herself to anyone? I was going to. When he was first diagnosed, I bought books. Downloaded apps. I told myself I'd learn. But you didn't, Lily said softly. Not accusatory. Just factual. No. Victoria's voice cracked. I got scared. Lily tilted her head, waiting. Ethan was watching his mother's face intently, trying to read meaning in her expressions. When Ethan was born, Victoria continued, her words coming faster now, I thought I could handle anything. I'd already built a company from nothing. I'd fought my way into rooms that didn't want me. But then, when he was 18 months old, I realized he wasn't responding to sounds. Wasn't babbling like other babies. She paused, her jaw working. The diagnosis was... It was meningitis. He'd been sick, and I'd been in Tokyo closing a deal. My mother was watching him, and she thought it was just a fever. By the time I got home, by the time we got him to the hospital, her voice broke. The infection had already damaged his cochlear nerves. Permanently. Lily's eyes widened with understanding. Ethan was signing something, confused by his mother's tears. He's asking why you're sad, Lily translated. Victoria looked at her son through blurred vision. Tell him mommy made a mistake. Tell him I chose work over him when he needed me most, and I've been trying to fix it with money ever since because I don't know how else to fix it. Lily's hands moved, translating, but she simplified it. Your mommy loves you very much. She's been scared, but she wants to do better. Ethan's small face scrunched in thought. Then his hands moved in a simple sign, one so basic that even Victoria recognized it from the pamphlets she'd once studied. Love. Victoria's composure shattered. A sob escaped her throat. I do love you, baby. So much. I didn't know how to face what I'd done. Every time I looked at you, I saw my failure. So I hired people. The best therapists. The best schools. I gave you everything except yourself, Lily finished gently. Except myself, Victoria echoed. Lily was quiet for a moment. Then she began signing to Ethan, her hands moving in a story. Ethan watched, transfixed, occasionally signing questions. After several minutes, Lily turned back to Victoria. I told him about my mama, she said. How when I was little, I used to get frustrated because I was the only one in my family who could hear. I had to help mama with everything. Phone calls, talking to teachers, ordering at restaurants. Sometimes I felt like I was the parent. That's too much responsibility for a child, Victoria said quietly. Maybe, Lily shrugged. But you know what mama told me? She said that being different isn't bad. It's just different. And that love doesn't need perfect words. It just needs showing up. Victoria looked at her son, really looked at him, at the hope still lingering in his eyes despite everything, at the way he held her hand like it was precious. "I haven't been showing up," Victoria whispered. "No," Lily agreed. "But you're here now." Ethan signed something, his expression serious. "He says," Lily translated, her voice thick with emotion, "It's not too late, Mommy. It's never too late." And Victoria understood, even without knowing the signs, because some truths transcend language. Her son was offering her forgiveness she didn't deserve. And maybe, just maybe, a second chance. Victoria wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, not caring that her carefully applied makeup was probably ruined. She looked at Lily with something like desperation. "Teach me," she said. "Please, teach me something. Anything." Lily's face lit up. "Really? Really?" Victoria straightened her shoulders, that familiar determination settling into place. But this time it wasn't about conquering a boardroom. It was about reaching her son. Lily thought for a moment, then her hands moved in a simple, clear sign, one hand over her heart, then extending outward. "This is 'I love you,'" Lily said. "It's one of the most important signs." Victoria watched carefully, then mimicked the gesture. Her movement was stiff, uncertain, nothing like Lily's fluid grace. But when she made the sign toward Ethan, her son's entire face transformed. His hands flew up. "Again! Do it again! He wants you to do it again," Lily translated, grinning. Victoria repeated the sign, more confidently this time, then again, and again. Each time, Ethan's smile grew wider, until he was bouncing in his seat with excitement. "Now this one," Lily said, bringing her fingertips to her lips and then moving her hand forward. "This means, thank you." Victoria practiced it. Ethan clapped his hands silently, his whole body expressing joy. For the next hour, the three of them existed in a bubble separate from the rest of the plane. Lily taught Victoria basic signs: eat, sleep, happy, play, mommy. Victoria's hands stumbled over the shapes, and several times she got them wrong. But Ethan didn't care. He corrected her gently, his small hands guiding hers into the right positions. It was the most physical contact they'd had in months. "You're doing great," Lily encouraged. "My mama says learning a new language is like building a bridge. You place one stone at a time." Victoria laughed, and it sounded rusty, unused. "I'm used to building things quickly. This is humbling." "Good," Lily said with 9-year-old wisdom. "Sometimes we need humbling." Ethan signed something elaborate, his face animated. Lily translated, "He wants to teach you a story about a dragon who was lonely because no one understood when he was trying to be nice. They just saw his fire." Victoria's breath caught. "Okay," she managed. "Show me." Ethan's hands became the story, flying through the air as the dragon, curling into shapes that represented misunderstanding, loneliness. Victoria couldn't follow all of it, but she caught pieces. And more importantly, she caught the emotion behind it. Her son had been that dragon, breathing fire that no one recognized as a call for help. When Ethan finished, Victoria signed the one phrase she knew confidently now: "I love you." Ethan launched himself across the armrest, wrapping his small arms around his mother's neck. Victoria held him, really held him, feeling the solid warmth of his body, the rapid beat of his heart. When was the last time she'd held him like this? When was the last time she'd slowed down enough to just be his mother? Over Ethan's shoulder, Victoria mouthed to Lily, "Thank you." Lily smiled and signed something. Victoria looked at her questioningly. "It means family," Lily said aloud. "Not just the one you're born with, the one you choose, the one you build." Rosa appeared at the end of the aisle, signing to her daughter. The turbulence had passed. She could return to her seat now. Lily nodded, then turned to Ethan. Her hands moved. I have to go back to my seat, but I'm not far away. And your mommy knows some signs now. You're not alone anymore. Ethan's face fell slightly, but he nodded. Then he signed something that made Lily's eyes shine with tears. He says I'm his first friend who speaks his language. Lily translated to Victoria. He says I'm his angel. Victoria stood, pulling out her phone. Please, let me get your mother's contact information. I need to stay in touch. Maybe you could help me keep learning? I could pay you for tutoring. Lily shook her head firmly. Not for money. But yes, we can be friends. Real friends. Victoria nodded, understanding the distinction. She got Rose's phone number and email, her hands shaking slightly as she typed them into her contacts. As Lily prepared to return to her seat, Ethan grabbed her hand one more time. He signed something simple, clear. Thank you for hearing me. Lily signed back. Thank you for letting me. The rest of the flight had been peaceful. Ethan had dozed off against Victoria's shoulder, his hand still loosely holding hers. Victoria had spent the time watching her son sleep, memorizing the curve of his cheek, the flutter of his eyelashes, all the details she'd been too busy to notice. But as the plane began its descent into Singapore, reality came crashing back. Victoria's phone buzzed with a message from Richard, her CFO. Merger team waiting. Press conference in 2 hours. Chen needs to be there. Then another. Investors getting nervous. Need your face on this ASAP. And another. This deal dies without you in that room. Victoria stared at the messages, her stomach nodding. The Singapore deal. The one she'd been working on for 18 months. $3 billion. The future of her company. Hundreds of jobs depending on it. She looked at Ethan, still sleeping peacefully. Then at her phone. Then back at Ethan. The plane touched down with a gentle bump. Ethan stirred, his eyes opening. He signed something sleepy and content. Home. Victoria's assistant was waiting at the gate. Tablet in hand, her expression urgent. Miss Chen, the car is ready. The merger team is assembled at the hotel. We need to run through your talking points before the... She noticed Ethan. Oh, should I call the nanny service to meet us? Something cold settled in Victoria's chest. The nanny service. The same one she always used when traveling. Ethan would be taken to the hotel suite, watched by a stranger while Victoria spent the next 12 hours in conference rooms. Just like always, Ethan was watching his mother's face, reading the shift in her expression. His small hand tugged her sleeve, signing, You're leaving again? I have to work. Baby? Victoria said aloud, then fumbled trying to remember the signs Lily had taught her. Her hands moved clumsily. Mommy work. Sorry. Ethan's face crumpled. His hands moved frantically. You promised. You promised with your hands. You said you love me. You said, I do love you, Victoria said, her voice rising with frustration and guilt. This is exactly why I work so hard. To give you everything you need. The best schools, the best therapists, the best. But she didn't know the signs for any of that. Her hands hung useless in the air. Ethan's expression shuttered closed. It was worse than crying. It was resignation. The look of a child who'd stopped expecting his parent to choose him. His hands moved slowly, deliberately. You don't love me. You love your phone. Your work. You love everything except me. Victoria didn't need a translation to understand. She saw it in his eyes. In the way he pulled his hand away from hers. In the way he turned his body toward the window, shutting her out. Ethan, that's not fair. Victoria started. But what wasn't fair? He was 7 years old. He was deaf, and his mother had spent his whole life prioritizing everything else. Her assistant cleared her throat. Ms. Chen? The car. Victoria stood, her body moving on autopilot. She reached for Ethan's hand, but he jerked away. He wouldn't look at her. From 3 rows back, Lily was watching. Victoria saw the disappointment in the little girl's eyes before Lily deliberately looked away, signing something to her mother. Victoria felt something break inside her chest. Not a crack this time. Complete fracture. She'd had one moment, one perfect hour, where she'd connected with her son, where she'd felt like maybe she could be the mother he deserved, and she was already walking away from it. Ms. Chen, her assistant pressed. Victoria looked at her son's small, closed-off form, at his hands tucked protectively against his chest, no longer trying to communicate with her. Victoria's voice came out strangled. She thought about the merger, the investors, the company she'd built from nothing, everything she'd sacrificed for, and suddenly, she couldn't remember why any of it mattered. But her feet were already moving toward the exit. Her body following the path it had always followed, toward work, toward success, toward everything except what truly mattered. Ethan didn't watch her go. He kept his face turned toward the window, his small shoulders rigid with hurt. And Victoria walked away from her son. Again. Have you ever had to choose between your career and someone you love? What did you choose, and do you regret it? Share your story in the comments. Sometimes we all need to know we're not alone in our struggles. Victoria sat in the hotel conference room, surrounded by lawyers, investors, and executives. Documents covered the table. Her CFO was walking through projections on a massive screen. Everyone was waiting for her to speak, to seal the deal with her trademark confidence. But she couldn't focus on a single word. Her hands rested on the polished mahogany table, and all she could see were Ethan's hands. The way they'd moved so desperately, trying to tell her something she'd refused to hear. The way they'd guided her fingers into the shape for "I love you." The way they'd finally given up, tucking against his chest in defeat. You don't love me. You love your phone, your work. You love everything except me. Miss Chen. Richard's voice cut through her thoughts. Your thoughts on the valuation? Victoria stared at him blankly. Valuation. $3 billion. The deal of a lifetime. Her phone sat face up on the table, and Ethan's face smiled at her from the lock screen. A photo from 2 years ago, back when he still looked at her with hope instead of resignation. Ms. Chen, Richard repeated, concern creeping into his voice. Victoria picked up her phone. She opened her contacts, scrolling to the number she'd saved just hours ago. Rosa Martinez. I need a moment, Victoria said abruptly, standing. But Ms. Chen, the investors. 5 minutes. She walked out of the conference room, her heels clicking against the marble floor. In the hallway, she pressed call before she could second-guess herself. Rosa answered via video call, Lily appearing beside her mother on the screen. Ms. Chen, Lily said, surprised. Where are you? Victoria asked, her voice tight. At our hotel. We're just checking in. Is everything okay? No. Victoria's voice cracked. Nothing is okay. I left him again. I walked away from Ethan again, and I saw his face, and She pressed her hand to her mouth, fighting for composure. I don't know what to do. Lily's young face filled with understanding. She signed something to her mother, then looked back at the camera. My mama says you always know what to do. You're just scared to do it. I have a room full of people waiting for me, Victoria said. A $3 billion deal. If I walk away, I could lose everything I've built. But what are you building it for? Lily asked simply. My mama works 3 jobs to take care of me. She's tired all the time. But you know what? She's never missed a school play. She's never chosen work over me. Not once. The words hit like hammer blows. Money can always be made again, Lily continued, her voice gentle but firm. But Ethan's growing up right now. Every day you miss, you don't get back. Every time you choose work, he learns that he's not worth choosing. Victoria closed her eyes, tears finally spilling over. I'm afraid. Of what? That I've already broken him. That it's too late. That even if I choose him now, he won't forgive me. He's 7, Lily said softly. He still believes in magic and angels and that his mommy can do anything. You know what that means? It means it's not too late. It's only too late when he stops believing. Victoria thought about Ethan's shuttered expression on the plane. He was already close to giving up on her. What do I do? Victoria whispered. You already know, Lily said. You go get your son. You take him somewhere, anywhere, and you just be with him. No phone, no work, just you and him. And you start building the bridge for real this time. Behind Victoria, the conference room door opened. Richard stuck his head out. Miss Chen, we really need you. The investors are getting impatient. Victoria looked at him, then at her phone, at Lily's earnest face. She thought about Ethan, probably sitting in a hotel suite with a stranger, his hands still and silent because he'd learned that speaking didn't matter. And suddenly, the choice wasn't hard at all. Richard, Victoria said, her voice steady for the first time in hours. I need you to handle the presentation. What? But you're the face of this deal. Then they'll have to accept a different face. You're my CFO. You know these numbers better than anyone. You can do this. Victoria, if you walk out now. I know. She met his eyes. And I'm walking out anyway. She ended the video call with Rosa and Lily, then pulled up her assistant's number. Cancel everything for the next week, she said. Every meeting, every call, every obligation. Ms. Chen, I don't think you understand what you're. I understand perfectly. For the first time in 7 years, I understand exactly what I'm doing. Victoria turned and walked toward the elevator, each step feeling lighter than the last. She didn't know if the deal would survive without her. She didn't know if the board would forgive her. She didn't know what the financial consequences would be. But she knew where her son was. And for once, that was the only thing that mattered. Behind Victoria, the conference room door opened. Richard stuck his head out. Miss Chen, we really need you. The investors are getting impatient. Victoria looked at him, then at her phone, at Lily's earnest face. She thought about Ethan, probably sitting in a hotel suite with a stranger, his hands still and silent because he'd learned that speaking didn't matter. And suddenly, the choice wasn't hard at all. Richard, Victoria said, her voice steady for the first time in hours. I need you to handle the presentation. What? But you're the face of this deal. Then they'll have to accept a different face. You're my CFO. You know these numbers better than anyone. You can do this. Victoria, if you walk out now. I know. She met his eyes. And I'm walking out anyway. She ended the video call with Rosa and Lily, then pulled up her assistant's number. Cancel everything for the next week, she said. Every meeting, every call, every obligation. Ms. Chen, I don't think you understand what you're. I understand perfectly. For the first time in 7 years, I understand exactly what I'm doing. Victoria turned and walked toward the elevator, each step feeling lighter than the last. She didn't know if the deal would survive without her. She didn't know if the board would forgive her. She didn't know what the financial consequences would be. But she knew where her son was. And for once, that was the only thing that mattered. Victoria burst into the hotel suite, her heart pounding. The nanny, a young woman in a professional uniform, looked up startled from the couch where she sat scrolling her phone. Where is he? Victoria demanded. Mr. Ethan is in the bedroom, ma'am. He hasn't come out since we arrived. I tried to offer him snacks, but Victoria was already moving. She pushed open the bedroom door to find Ethan curled on the massive hotel bed. His back to the door, his iPad playing silent cartoons he wasn't watching. Ethan, Victoria said softly. He didn't turn around, didn't acknowledge her at all. Victoria's throat tightened, but she moved forward anyway. She circled the bed until she was in his line of sight, then slowly, carefully, lowered herself to sit on the floor so she was looking up at him. Making herself smaller, less threatening, his eyes flickered to her face, then away. Dismissive, protective. Victoria's hands lifted, shaking slightly as she signed, I love you. Ethan's expression didn't change. She tried again, fumbling through the signs Lily had taught her. Mommy. Sorry. Mommy. Wrong. Nothing. Victoria felt panic rising, but she pushed it down. She pulled out her phone, and Ethan's face closed off further. Of course he thought she was going back to work, but instead, Victoria opened a video call. Lily's face appeared on the screen. Ms. Chen, I need you to translate something for me, Victoria said, her voice thick. Please, I need to say this right. Lily nodded seriously. I'm ready. Lily nodded seriously. I'm ready. Victoria looked at her son, really looked at him, and let everything she'd been holding back pour out. Tell him, she began, that I've been the worst mother in the world, that I've been so scared of failing him that I did fail him in every way that matters. Tell him that when he got sick, when he lost his hearing, I blamed myself so much that I couldn't bear to be close to him because every time I looked at him, I saw my mistake. Lily's hands moved on the screen, translating. Ethan's eyes slowly shifted back to his mother, watching. Tell him, Victoria continued, tears streaming freely now, that I thought money could fix everything because money was the only thing I knew how to do. I thought if I worked hard enough, earned enough, I could somehow make up for not being there. But I was wrong. So wrong. Lily signed. Ethan's lower lip trembled. Tell him that today, on that plane, a little girl showed me what I'd been missing. She showed me that my son has been calling for me this whole time, and I've been too afraid to answer. But I'm done being afraid. I'm done choosing everything else over him. Victoria set the phone down on the bed, where Ethan could still see Lily signing, then reached for her son's hands. He tried to pull away, but she held gently, persistently. I can't promise I'll be perfect, Victoria said, watching Lily translate. I can't promise I won't mess up, but I can promise that from this moment forward you come first. Not the company, not the deals, not the money. You. Always you. Ethan's hands trembled in hers. His signs came hesitant, broken. But your work? Important. Victoria shook her head fiercely. You know what I did just now? I walked out of a $3 billion deal. I left a room full of very important people waiting. And you know what? I do it again. Every single time. Because nothing is more important than you. Ethan stared at her, searching her face for the truth of it. Victoria lifted her hands, signing the phrase she knew by heart now. I love you. And then, remembering something Lily had said, she signed the word for family. The one Lily had taught her. Not the family you're born with. The family you choose. The family you build. You. Me. Family. Forever. Something broke in Ethan's expression. The walls he'd built came crashing down, and he launched himself into his mother's arms with a force that knocked her backward. His small body shook with sobs, the kind of crying that comes from finally being seen. Victoria held him, rocking him, her own tears falling into his hair. I'm here, she whispered against his head. I'm here, baby, and I'm not leaving. They stayed like that for a long time, mother and son, finally in the same language, finally in the same moment. When Ethan finally pulled back, his face blotchy and wet, his hands moved. "You really stayed. You chose me. I chose you," Victoria signed back, her movements getting smoother with emotion behind them. "I will always choose you." Ethan's face split into a smile. Genuine, radiant, whole. He signed something rapid and excited. He says, Lily translated from the phone, her own voice thick with tears, that he wants to go to the park. He wants to feed the ducks. He wants you to learn more signs. He wants to tell you all the stories he's been saving up. Victoria looked at her son, at the hope blazing in his eyes, and she felt something settle in her chest. Not the old armor. Something different. Something like peace. "Then let's go," she said, standing and pulling Ethan up with her. "Right now. No work. No calls. Just you and me." Ethan's hands flew. "Really? You promise?" Victoria knelt down to his level, taking his small face in her hands. She signed carefully, "I promise. Promise. I promise." 3 months later, Victoria sat in a different kind of conference room, this one filled with colorful chairs and tiny tables. She was surrounded by other parents, and an ASL instructor stood at the front. Ethan sat beside her, his hand in hers, watching proudly as his mother practiced the signs for playground and friendship. Victoria's phone buzzed in her bag. She glanced at it, a message from Richard about quarterly earnings. She looked at the screen for a moment, then turned the phone face down and returned her attention to the lesson. The company had survived without her constant presence. The merger had closed, though with different terms. Some investors had been angry. Some board members had questioned her commitment. But every night, Victoria came home to a son who ran to greet her, his hands flying with stories about his day. A son who smiled when he saw her. A son who'd started sleeping in her bed again, his small hand clutching hers even in sleep, as if afraid she might disappear. That was worth more than any deal could ever be. Lily and Rosa had become regular fixtures in their lives. Lily tutored Victoria twice a week, and Ethan had his first real friend, someone who spoke his language, who understood his world. Victoria had set up a college fund for Lily, though she'd framed it differently this time. Not payment. Family taking care of family. Ethan tapped her arm, signing, "Mommy, pay attention. This sign is important." Victoria smiled and focused on her son, on his hands, on his language. She was finally listening, and for the first time in 7 years, she was finally home. Victoria's journey reminds us that it's never too late to choose what truly matters. Have you ever made a choice that changed your life? Or is there a choice you wish you'd made differently? Share your story below. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if this story touched your heart, let us know what moment hit you the hardest. We read every comment. Thank you so much for watching my story all the way to the end. Your support means everything. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts.